It was supposed to be a quiet afternoon near the edge of a small lakeside town. The Rock and Cena were there for a charity video shoot, something lighthearted meant to raise funds for a children's hospital. The weather was warm, the crew was relaxed, and laughter echoed through the air as cameras rolled. Everything felt calm and ordinary until something strange caught the Rock's eye. Far across the water, on the slope of a distant hill, a small light began flickering. At first it looked random, like sunlight bouncing off a window or maybe someone playing with a flashlight. But the pattern didn't feel random. It came in short, sharp bursts, then longer flashes, then short again. The Rock squinted, shading his eyes against the light. "You see that?" he asked quietly. Cena followed his gaze. "Yeah," Cena said, narrowing his eyes. "That's not just a reflection. That's an SOS." They both stood still for a moment, unsure if their minds were playing tricks. But the flashes kept repeating. 3 short. 3 long. 3 short. The universal signal for distress. The Rock felt his stomach tighten. He'd seen that signal before, once during a rescue training program years ago. People don't use it unless they're in real trouble. Without another word, he turned to one of the crew members. "Hold the chute," he said firmly. "We need to check that out." The crew looked puzzled, unsure whether he was joking or serious, but the tone in his voice left no room for questions. Cena grabbed a flashlight from one of the gearboxes while the Rock picked up his phone and pointed toward the hillside. The area was remote, covered with uneven ground and a few narrow dirt paths that led into the woods. "Could be a camper," one of the crew said. "Could be," the Rock replied, "but what if it's not?" They didn't waste another minute. The 2 men jumped into a pickup truck parked nearby and headed down the narrow road that wrapped around the lake. The late afternoon sun painted the sky orange and pink, but the closer they got to the other side, the quieter it became. No traffic, no people, no signs of anyone nearby. As they reached the end of the road, the truck couldn't go any further. The path ahead was rough and muddy, half covered with leaves and small rocks. They parked the truck and continued on foot. Cena turned on the flashlight while the Rock scanned the hill for any more signs of light. The signal had stopped, but both of them could feel the weight of silence pressing around them. "Hello?" Cena called out. His voice echoed faintly through the trees, no answer. Only the faint sound of birds and the rustling of branches. They kept walking, carefully stepping over roots and patches of mud. A few minutes later they saw something. An old small car sitting halfway off the dirt road, one tire buried deep in a ditch. The hood was slightly open, and smoke had left faint marks near the front. Beside it, sitting on a large rock, was a young girl, no older than 16 or 17. Her clothes were dusty, her face pale, and she clutched a small phone in her hands that had clearly died hours ago. When she saw them coming through the trees, she looked both frightened and relieved. "Please," she said, her voice shaking. "I've been here for hours. My phone died and nobody was passing by. I tried using the flashlight as a signal." The Rock took a slow step forward, lowering his tone. "You did the right thing," he said gently. "We saw it from across the lake. Are you hurt?" She shook her head. "No, I ran out of gas. And I tried to push the car, but it got stuck. I didn't know what else to do." Cena looked around the area. It was easy to see how no one had noticed her. The road was hidden behind a bend, and most drivers probably wouldn't have spotted the car unless they were walking right past it. "You were smart to send that SOS," Cena said. "That probably saved you." The girl smiled weakly, still trembling. "I didn't think anyone would notice." "Well," the Rock said, giving a small grin, "you got lucky. We were in the right place at the right time." They helped her move to a safer spot while the Rock checked the car. The front tire was buried deep, and the back wheels were slick with mud. The engine didn't even turn over. "She's not going anywhere on her own," he said. Cena nodded and went back to get some rope from the truck. While he was gone, the Rock handed the girl a bottle of water from his bag. She took it with shaking hands, sipping slowly. "Thank you," she whispered. "No need to thank me," he said kindly. "You kept calm. That's what matters." "What's your name?" she told him, and he nodded, trying to keep her talking so she wouldn't feel scared. She explained that she had driven out to visit her grandmother earlier in the day. On her way back, she'd taken a wrong turn and ended up on this narrow dirt road. Her phone signal disappeared, and when she tried to turn around, the car slid into the ditch. Hours passed, and it started getting dark. She was scared someone might come by and try to hurt her, or that no one would ever find her. The Rock listened quietly, occasionally nodding. He didn't interrupt or rush her. When Cena returned with the rope in his truck, they got to work together, tying the car carefully and slowly pulling it out of the ditch. It took several tries. The mud kept the tires locked in, but after a few tense minutes, the car finally came free. The girl clapped her hands together, her face lighting up with relief. Cena smiled and gave her a thumbs up. There you go. Back on solid ground. The Rock checked the fuel gauge. Looks like she's out of gas too, he said. We'll get you some from the truck. While Cena fetched a small gas can, The Rock looked at the fading sunlight. The air was starting to cool and the crickets had begun to sing. The girl stood beside her car looking at the two men in disbelief. I still can't believe you two are actually here, she said softly. You're The Rock and John Cena. The Rock laughed. We get that a lot, he said. But right now we're just two guys who saw someone in trouble. Cena added, doesn't matter who you are or what you do. If someone needs help, you help. That's how it should be. The simplicity of his words seemed to comfort her. After filling up her tank, they made sure the car started properly. The headlights flicked on, bright against the darkening woods. She let out a small laugh, a mix of relief and gratitude. Thank you so much, she said again. I don't even know how to repay you. You don't have to, The Rock said, patting the car hood gently. Just get home safe and maybe help someone else one day if you get the chance. Before she drove off, Cena made sure she shared her grandmother's address so they could confirm she made it home safely. They stood there watching as her car disappeared around the bend, the red taillights glowing faintly through the trees. When the road was quiet again, The Rock let out a deep breath. Man, he said, shaking his head. That could have ended badly if nobody noticed. Cena nodded. Yeah, she did everything right, though. Calm, smart, and resourceful. They both walked back toward the truck in silence, each lost in thought. The world was full of noise, shows, headlines, schedules, but in that quiet moment what mattered most was simple human kindness. By the time they returned to the set, the crew had already heard what happened. Someone had seen them leave and tracked their progress through a drone camera that was still running. The producer rushed up to them, worried at first but relaxed when he saw them smiling. Everything good? He asked. Yeah, The Rock said. Better than good. Just helped someone get home. The crew exchanged glances and a few people clapped softly. It wasn't the kind of heroism you see in action movies. No explosions, no dramatic music, but it was real. As the evening settled, Cena looked across the lake again. The sun had vanished completely now, leaving only a faint glow over the water. You ever think, he said quietly, how many people might be out there sending signals nobody sees? The Rock looked thoughtful for a moment. Yeah, he said. That's why we've got to keep our eyes open. You never know when someone might need a hand. The rest of the night passed quietly, but the moment stayed with both of them. It wasn't about fame or cameras anymore. It was about the simple truth that even the smallest act of attention can change someone's life. And somewhere out there, a young girl was driving home safely, her heart lighter, her faith in people restored, because two strangers cared enough to notice a flicker of light across the water. The next morning, the news about what happened near the lake had already started to spread quietly around the town. Someone from the film crew had mentioned it to a local reporter, and soon the story reached social media. Posts began to appear online, saying that The Rock and John Cena had stopped filming to rescue a stranded teenage girl. Photos taken from a distance by the drone crew showed the moment when they pulled the car out of the mud. Though neither of them had said anything publicly, people were already calling them real-life heroes. But for The Rock and Cena, it didn't feel like a heroic act. They were sitting at a small table outside a local diner that morning, sipping coffee and eating breakfast before heading back to the set. The Rock looked out the window at the quiet road and shook his head slightly. It's crazy how fast things spread these days, he said. One small act and suddenly everyone's talking about it. Cena nodded, stirring his coffee slowly. Yeah, but maybe that's not a bad thing. People could use more stories like that. Reminds them that kindness still matters. The Rock smiled faintly. You're right about that. They both sat in silence for a few seconds, each thinking about the girl from the night before. There was something about her face, the mixture of fear, hope, and disbelief that had stayed with them. She was young, alone, and yet somehow strong enough to stay calm when most people would have panicked. It wasn't just luck that saved her. It was her courage to keep signaling for help even when she thought no one was watching. As they were finishing breakfast, The Rock's phone buzzed. It was a message from one of the producers saying the girl's family wanted to meet them and thank them in person. She had told her parents what happened, and they were deeply moved. They asked if they could stop by the set later in the day. Of course, The Rock said. Tell them they're welcome any time. By the time afternoon came, the charity shoot was running again, but the energy on set felt different. People were smiling more, talking quietly about what had happened the night before. Even the kids from the local hospital who had come to visit the shoot seemed excited to meet the two stars who had become unexpected rescuers. Around 3 p.m., a small car pulled up near the edge of the field. The same girl stepped out, this time with her mother and younger brother. She looked much brighter, clean clothes, rested face, a soft smile that carried both gratitude and confidence. When she saw The Rock and Cena standing nearby, she waved shyly. They walked over and The Rock greeted them warmly. "Hey, look who's back," he said with a grin. "You got home safe, huh?" The girl nodded quickly. "Yes, thank you so much. My parents couldn't believe what happened. I wanted to say thank you again. I don't even know what would have happened if you didn't see my signal." Her mother stepped forward, her eyes already glossy with emotion. "We can't thank you enough," she said softly. "We tried calling her all evening, but her phone was off. I can't even explain how scared we were." Cena placed a hand on her shoulder gently. "She's strong," he said. "She stayed calm and made the right call. You raised a smart girl." The mother smiled proudly, wiping a tear from her cheek. "She's my brave one." For a few minutes, they all stood together, talking casually about what happened, laughing at how unbelievable the situation sounded when you said it out loud. The Rock asked if they had any trouble with the car after that, and the girl admitted she didn't want to drive alone for a while. Her mom nodded, saying she'd make sure someone always rode with her until she felt comfortable again. Then something unexpected happened. One of the children from the hospital group approached timidly, holding a small drawing. "Can I give this to you?" the boy asked The Rock. It was a simple picture drawn in crayon, two tall figures pulling a car from a ditch with a bright sun overhead. The Rock knelt down and smiled as he took the paper. "This is amazing," he said sincerely. "You're a great artist," the boy grinned shyly. "My mom said heroes come in all sizes, so I wanted to draw you guys." That simple moment made everyone around them smile. It wasn't about fame anymore. It was about what that moment had represented to others. A spark of goodness in a world that often felt too busy to notice the small things. Later, when the girl and her family left, she hugged both of them before getting back into the car. "I'll never forget what you did," she said softly. The Rock watched as the car drove away again, this time safely down the main road. "That right there," he said quietly, "is worth more than any award." Cena nodded. "Yeah, it reminds you what's real." That night, as they wrapped up filming, one of the crew members showed them how their story had gone viral online. A video edit made by a fan was spreading fast. It showed clips of the rescue with inspiring music underneath. Thousands of comments poured in. Some people said they cried watching it. Others said it restored their faith in people. The Rock scrolled through the comments for a minute, then turned off his phone. "You know," he said, "we didn't do it for the attention." "I know," Cena said. "But if it inspires others to look out for someone, then maybe it was meant to be shared." They stood quietly for a moment, listening to the soft breeze coming off the lake. The moonlight shimmered on the surface, the same lake where the whole thing had started. The Rock broke the silence. "You ever think how many people are out there right now trying to send some kind of signal? Maybe not with a light, but with their words or their actions? Just hoping someone sees them?" Cena nodded slowly. "Yeah, sometimes it's not even about danger. Sometimes it's about being noticed, being heard. Everyone's got an SOS in some form." The Rock smiled slightly. "Then maybe the best thing we can do is keep paying attention." For a few minutes they stood side by side, saying nothing. It was peaceful, just the sound of water, the rustle of leaves, and the distant hum of the night. A few days later, the charity video they had been filming was finally completed. But the producers decided to include a short message at the end, inspired by what had happened. It showed The Rock and Cena sitting together, speaking directly to the camera. If you ever see someone who might need help, Cena said, don't ignore it. Even the smallest sign could mean a lot. The Rock added, and if you're the one in trouble, never stop believing someone will see your signal. There's always someone out there who cares more than you think. The message was simple but powerful. When the video went online, it wasn't just about promoting the charity anymore. It was about awareness, kindness, and paying attention to the world around you. It reached millions of views within days, and messages flooded in from people sharing their own experiences of helping strangers or being helped when they least expected it. Weeks passed, and life went back to normal. But every once in a while, The Rock would think back to that night, the quiet lake, the flickering light, and the girl sitting by her car holding on to hope. It reminded him of something his late father used to say. Real strength isn't how hard you can hit, it's how much you can care. One evening, while heading to another event, The Rock got a letter delivered to his hotel. It was from the girl. The envelope was plain and the handwriting was careful and neat. Inside, the note read, I just wanted to say thank you again. That night changed me in ways I can't explain. I used to think the world didn't notice people like me, but you and John showed me that there are still good people who care. I've decided to start volunteering with a local rescue group. Maybe one day I can help someone the way you helped me. He smiled softly after reading it, folding the letter and placing it in his jacket pocket. When Cena walked into the room a few minutes later, he handed him the letter. Cena read it and smiled too. Guess she found her own way to keep the chain going, he said. Yeah, The Rock replied, and that's all we could hope for. That night they went on stage at a charity gala, greeted by applause and bright lights. But in their hearts, what mattered most wasn't the attention. It was the quiet moment in the dark, when two people noticed a flicker of light and chose to follow it. Because sometimes, the most meaningful stories don't start with fame or power. They start with a simple choice to care, to stop, to see someone's signal when no one else does. And for them, that night near the lake would forever be a reminder that real heroism doesn't wear a costume. It just shows up when the world gets quiet and someone whispers for help. A few weeks had passed since the night by the lake. Life on set had returned to its usual rhythm, cameras rolling, crew bustling, and the charity project moving forward. But for The Rock and Cena, the memory of the girl and her desperate SOS lingered, quietly reminding them of the fragility of life and the importance of paying attention. It was during a break in filming that The Rock got a call from the girl herself. She sounded nervous but determined. I know this is sudden, she said, but I wanted to ask if I could meet you both again. There's something I want to share, something important. Cena raised an eyebrow. Sounds serious. Are you okay? Yes, she said quickly. I'm fine, I've been thinking a lot about what happened that night, and I think I want to do something meaningful with it. The Rock and Cena exchanged a glance. They didn't need to say anything, the girl's tone was enough. She wanted to take what had happened and turn it into something more than just a scary memory. They agreed to meet her that evening at a local community center. When they arrived, they found the place buzzing with people, children, teenagers, parents, all waiting for a small workshop the girl had organized. It wasn't large or fancy, but it was heartfelt. Tables were set with paper, markers, and small lights, and the girl was at the front speaking to the group about noticing signs when someone needs help. She looked nervous when she saw The Rock and Cena entering, but she quickly smiled and continued speaking. I wanted to create a space where we can learn to look out for each other, she said. Sometimes the smallest action can save someone's life, or at least make them feel seen. The Rock smiled and nodded. Cena leaned over to whisper, She's really stepping up. The girl continued, explaining to the group how she had been stranded, how scared she felt, and how she had used her phone flashlight to send an SOS. She spoke honestly about the fear and loneliness, but also about the hope she had clung to, believing someone would notice. After she finished, The Rock stood up and addressed the group. What she's telling you is real, he said. It's easy to get caught up in your own world and ignore the signals others might be sending. But paying attention, even in a small way, can make a huge difference. We were lucky to be there. But luck alone isn't always enough. Awareness and care, that's what saves lives. Cena added, and if you're ever the one in trouble, don't be afraid to ask for help. Even if it feels scary or hopeless, someone will notice. Someone will care. The children and teenagers listened quietly, some wide-eyed, some nodding and understanding. The girl then invited a few of them to practice signaling for help safely, using flashlights and hand gestures. It became a simple interactive exercise. Some laughed nervously, others took it very seriously, realizing how easy it would be for someone to get lost or feel alone. The Rock and Cena moved among the participants, offering guidance and encouragement. The Rock knelt beside a young boy who was trying to hold the flashlight steady. "Good," he said. "You're doing exactly what you need to do. Stay calm, stay focused." Cena helped a young girl figure out how to signal from a distance. "Remember," he said, "it's not about strength or size. It's about clarity. Make sure someone can see you and understand you need help." As the session continued, the girl began to open up more herself. She shared her feelings of fear that night, but also her gratitude for the unexpected kindness of strangers. She admitted she had felt invisible sometimes, worried no one would notice her struggles. But now, standing in front of the group, she realized that reaching out, even in small ways, could change everything. After the exercises, they gathered in a circle. The girl asked everyone to share one thing they learned about noticing or asking for help. A teenage boy spoke about listening to friends who seemed sad. A young girl mentioned checking in on neighbors or classmates. Each response, simple as it was, highlighted how small gestures could create a ripple effect. The Rock watched quietly, impressed by the thoughtfulness of the group and the girl's leadership. Cena leaned toward him. "She's grown a lot since that night," he said. "And she's making others grow too." The girl looked at them, a little shy but proud. "I couldn't have done any of this without you," she said. "You showed me that someone will notice, someone will care. That's what gave me the courage to do this." The Rock smiled, placing a hand on her shoulder. "We didn't do anything special. You did the hard part, you stayed calm, you acted, and you didn't give up. That's the bravery we all need to remember." Cena nodded. "Exactly. And now you're showing others the same courage. That's bigger than anything we could do." After the session, they all sat down for a brief chat and some refreshments. The girl's family stayed close by, proud and supportive, watching as she spoke openly with the participants. She told stories from her life, times when she had needed help, and times when she had noticed someone else who needed a hand. The Rock listened to her recount one story about a neighbor who was elderly and often alone. She had helped carry groceries and checked in on them regularly. Cena smiled. "You've been helping people long before we even met you," he said. This just brought it all into focus. The girl laughed softly. "I guess I didn't realize it counted until that night." It was clear to everyone present that the experience had changed her. Not in a dramatic, celebrity-filled way, but in a quiet, strong, human way. She had taken a frightening moment and used it to create something positive for others. As the workshop ended, the girl hugged both men again. "Thank you," she said simply. "I feel like I can finally do something meaningful now instead of just waiting to be saved." The Rock nodded. "That's the point. You don't need to wait for someone else to make a difference. You've got the power to do it yourself," Cena added. "And sometimes helping yourself means giving courage to others too. You're already doing that." Outside, the sun had begun to dip behind the trees, casting long shadows across the community center parking lot. The girl's family loaded her brother into the car and she waved goodbye. She looked over her shoulder one last time, smiling at the two men who had unknowingly changed her life. As the Rock and Cena drove back to their hotel, they were quiet for a while, each reflecting on what had just happened. "You know," the Rock said finally, "it's moments like these that remind you why you do what you do. Not the lights, not the cameras, not the fame, just the chance to actually make a difference." Cena nodded. "Yeah, and it doesn't matter how big or small the act is. Every little bit counts. You never know who might be inspired by seeing kindness in action." They returned to their rooms with a sense of fulfillment that didn't come from applause or recognition. It was the quiet satisfaction of knowing they had been there when someone truly needed help, and that the person they helped was now ready to help others in turn. The next morning, the Rock received a small package at the hotel lobby. It was from the girl. Inside was a handmade bracelet, simple but carefully woven. A note accompanied it. "Thank you for showing me courage isn't just about being strong. It's about paying attention, caring, and acting when someone needs you. I will never forget that." He smiled, holding the bracelet carefully. Cena leaned over, reading the note. "That's pretty special," he said. "Small gestures like this, they last longer than any photo or video." The two of them spent the rest of the day back on set, but the bracelet stayed on the Rock's wrist, a reminder of the night by the lake, the girl's courage, and the ripple effect of a single act of attention and care. Weeks later, the girl's initiative continued to grow. She started organizing small community workshops, teaching children and teenagers how to notice someone in need and how to signal for help safely. Her story was shared locally, and even national media picked up on it as a positive, human-centered story of courage, awareness, and compassion. Through it all, she never sought the spotlight for herself. Instead, she focused on helping others see that even the smallest gesture, a phone flashlight, a kind word, a simple question, could save someone's day, or even their life. For The Rock and Cena, hearing updates from her brought a sense of pride and humility. They had been there at the start, but the story had grown far beyond them, and that, more than anything, reminded them why real heroism isn't about being noticed, it's about showing up, paying attention, and helping someone when it truly matters. One evening, as they were leaving a dinner event, Cena turned to The Rock. "You think she knows how much she's inspiring others?" he asked. The Rock smiled softly. "I think she's starting to. And the best part is, she's going to keep inspiring more and more people. That's the kind of change that lasts." And with that thought, they drove off into the night, carrying with them the memory of a frightened girl, a flickering SOS, and the quiet, powerful truth that real courage often comes in small, unexpected moments. The weeks after the workshop passed quietly but meaningfully. The girl had become more confident, walking with a steady stride that reflected her growing sense of purpose. She continued volunteering at local community events, helping children understand the importance of looking out for each other. Every day she remembered the night she had been stranded, the moment her SOS flickered across the lake, and the two men who had stepped in without hesitation. One afternoon, The Rock received a message from her. She wanted to visit the set during a break in filming, not just to say hello, but to share her latest project. When The Rock and Cena arrived at the designated small park near the studio, they found her setting up a little stand with colorful charts and posters. She was preparing a mini seminar for children from a nearby school, teaching them basic safety measures, how to signal for help, and how to stay calm in emergencies. "Hey," she said as they approached, smiling but slightly nervous. "I wanted to show you what I've been working on." The Rock crouched slightly to be at her level. "Look at this. You've done all this yourself?" "Yes," she said proudly. "I thought if I could help even a few kids, maybe they'll remember to be careful or brave if they ever need to be." Cena nodded, impressed. "You're taking a scary experience and turning it into something that can help others." "That's amazing." The children began arriving, giggling and curious. They gathered around the girl as she explained how she had learned to stay calm when stranded, and how the SOS signal had helped her get noticed. She let them practice sending signals using small flashlights, showing them the correct patterns and how to make sure someone far away could see them clearly. The Rock and Cena moved quietly among the children, offering gentle guidance when needed. They weren't teaching, they were supporting. They laughed with the kids, encouraged them, and shared small personal stories of times they had needed help. The children listened with wide eyes, clearly fascinated by the idea that even strong, famous people sometimes relied on others. One boy raised his hand timidly. "Did you ever feel scared that no one would help you?" The Rock smiled and nodded. "Absolutely. Everyone feels that way sometimes. But the important thing is to keep trying, to stay calm and to let people know you need help. That's what counts." The girl glanced at Cena, who nodded and added, "And remember, you don't always have to be alone. Asking for help is a sign of strength, not weakness." The session lasted for over an hour. By the end, the children were laughing, sharing their own small experiences and practicing their signals with confidence. The girl was beaming, clearly proud of what she had accomplished. After everyone had left, she sat down with The Rock and Cena on a nearby bench. She took a deep breath, looking a little more serious. "I never thought I could do something like this," she admitted. "After that night, I just wanted to get home safely, but now, I feel like I can make a difference." The Rock smiled warmly. "You already are. You're showing other kids how to be brave and aware. That's huge." Cena leaned back, thoughtful. "And it's not just about teaching signals. You're teaching them confidence, self-reliance, and the idea that it's okay to ask for help. Those lessons last a lifetime. She looked at both of them, gratitude shining in her eyes. I wouldn't have been able to do any of this without you two noticing me that night. You didn't just rescue me. You showed me that someone could care, and that gave me the courage to care for others. The Rock placed a hand on her shoulder. It wasn't about us. It was about you doing the right thing. We just happened to be there. But the fact that you're taking it further, that's your courage. Cena nodded. Exactly. You're the hero of this story now. The girl smiled, a quiet mix of pride and humility. I just hope I can keep helping. I don't want anyone to feel as helpless as I did that night. That evening, as the sun set, the three of them walked slowly back toward the parking lot. The lights from the nearby city flickered in the distance, reflecting softly on the water. It was a peaceful moment, the kind that made time seem slower and allowed them to think about the impact of small actions. Sometimes, the Rock said quietly, it's easy to forget how much a single act of noticing someone can change things. That night by the lake, it changed a lot more than you probably realize. The girl looked up at him. I know, every day I remember it, and I want to make sure I do something meaningful with it. Cena smiled. And you are. Every workshop, every child you teach, every story you share, it's all part of the ripple effect. You started it, and now it keeps going. Over the next few days, the girl continued visiting schools and community centers. The Rock and Cena stayed in touch, offering support when she needed advice but letting her lead the way. She was learning to speak confidently in front of groups, organize small events, and inspire others without ever seeking fame or recognition. One afternoon, she reached out to them with an idea. She wanted to organize a small safety hike in the forest near the lake, teaching kids how to navigate unfamiliar areas safely, recognize potential dangers, and help each other if someone got lost. When the Rock and Cena arrived at the forest that day, they found her already coordinating with a few volunteers, marking paths and preparing materials for the children. It was impressive to see how much responsibility she could handle at her age, and both men felt a swell of pride. The hike began with small groups of children guided along safe paths. The girl taught them about staying together, keeping calm if someone got separated, and signaling for help using flashlights or bright clothing. She told stories about her own experience, making it relatable but not frightening. At one point, a young boy slipped on a muddy patch, and the girl immediately instructed him to sit while another child fetched help. The Rock and Cena helped demonstrate proper safety techniques, but it was clear that she had taken charge naturally. Good job, the Rock said quietly to her, impressed. You handled that perfectly. The girl smiled but shook her head. I just remembered what you guys taught me, to stay calm, assess the situation, and ask for help if needed. Cena nodded. And you're showing the kids that too. That's powerful. By the end of the hike, the children had learned more than just survival skills. They had gained confidence, teamwork, and an understanding that paying attention to others mattered. The girl stood at the center, surrounded by smiling faces, and for the first time, she felt a deep sense of purpose. Afterward, they all sat by the lake, the water calm and reflective. The girl's mother joined them, thanking the Rock and Cena once again. You helped her see that she could make a difference, she said. That night didn't just teach her to be brave, it taught her to be compassionate. The Rock nodded, looking at the girl. You've taken something frightening and turned it into a chance to help others. That's real strength, Cena added. And you're proving that heroism isn't just about being the strongest or the fastest. It's about noticing someone when they need you, acting with care and passing it on. That's the kind of hero we all can be. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the girl looked out over the water. The sky was painted in shades of orange and purple, reflecting softly on the surface. She thought about the night she had sent the SOS, the fear and loneliness she had felt, and the two men who had seen her. That moment had changed everything. Not just for her, but for the people she was now helping. Thank you, she said softly, almost to herself. I will make sure your belief in me wasn't wasted. The Rock smiled warmly. You've already started. Cena placed a hand on her shoulder gently. And you'll keep going. That's the point. Courage grows when you use it, and now you're showing everyone how. They stayed there for a while, quietly watching the sunset, feeling the calm after the long days of teaching and guiding. It wasn't about attention, fame, or praise. It was about seeing someone grow, knowing that the small acts of care and notice could change a life forever. That night, When they returned to their hotel, The Rock and Cena both reflected on how extraordinary ordinary courage could be. It wasn't flashy or dramatic. It didn't require a stage or an audience. It required awareness, empathy, and action, and sometimes just showing up. For the girl, the journey was only beginning. Each day she found new ways to help, to teach, and to inspire others. And every time she thought back to that night by the lake, she remembered that even the smallest flicker of hope could light a path forward. The quiet lesson lingered with everyone involved. Real courage and real heroism often show themselves in the most unexpected moments. And even small, simple actions can create a ripple that changes countless lives. Weeks had turned into months since the night the girl had sent her SOS signal from the hillside. Life had shifted for everyone involved, but the memory of that night remained vivid for The Rock, Cena, and the girl herself. The lake, the woods, the stranded car, they were images she carried with her every day, reminders of how fragile life could be and how much difference one act of noticing could make. The girl's efforts in the community had grown steadily. She had started a small program called Lights for Help, where children and teenagers could learn basic safety skills, signaling techniques, and ways to assist people in need. It wasn't a large organization, but it was personal, impactful, and heartfelt. Every session she organized became an opportunity to teach courage, awareness, and empathy. One afternoon, The Rock and Cena received a call inviting them to attend one of her new workshops. They agreed without hesitation, knowing it was more than just a casual visit. It was a chance to see how far she had come. When they arrived at the community hall, they were greeted by a sea of smiling faces, kids holding flashlights, notebooks, and small handmade signs saying, "Be brave, be seen." The girl was at the front, confidently guiding the participants, her nervousness from earlier days replaced with a calm authority. "Look at you," The Rock said quietly to Cena. "She's come a long way." Cena smiled. "She's incredible. She turned fear into action, and now she's inspiring others." The workshop began with the girl explaining the importance of noticing signs when someone might need help, whether it was a simple gesture, a distressed look, or an actual SOS signal. She told the story of her own experience, careful to convey the lessons without frightening the children. "Sometimes people feel invisible," she said softly, "but someone will always notice if you take the chance to reach out. And if you're the one in trouble, never be afraid to ask for help." The Rock and Cena observed quietly, impressed by her maturity and sincerity. She encouraged the children to practice signaling with small flashlights, showing them patterns and explaining when and how to use them. She made the exercises interactive, guiding them patiently, correcting gently, and praising their efforts. A young girl raised her hand, her voice small. "What if someone doesn't see you?" The girl looked thoughtful for a moment. "Sometimes people might not notice right away. But you have to keep trying. Stay calm, be clear, and don't give up." That's what I did that night. I kept signaling because I believed someone would see me, and someone did. The Rock and Cena exchanged glances, remembering that night themselves, the fear, the uncertainty, and the relief when they finally reached her. It had been a life-changing moment for all of them, and now it was inspiring an entire group of children. After the exercises, the girl organized small groups to discuss real-life scenarios, how to react if someone was lost, hurt, or in danger. The children shared their thoughts, and the girl encouraged teamwork and empathy. Each group presented their plan, and she guided them on improvements, making sure every child felt heard and valued. Once the session ended, she approached The Rock and Cena. "I wanted to show you what I've been doing," she said, her eyes shining with pride. "I want to make sure other kids don't feel as helpless as I did." The Rock smiled warmly. "Look at what you've accomplished. You've taken one night, one small act, and turned it into something that can touch countless lives." "That's real courage," Cena nodded. "And the best part is you're teaching them to notice, to care, and to act. That's a ripple effect that will keep growing." The girl looked at them a little shyly. "I couldn't have done it without you. You showed me someone would care, that someone would notice. That gave me the courage to start helping others." The Rock placed a hand on her shoulder. "We didn't do anything special. You made the choice to act, to learn, and to lead. That's what matters," Cena added. "And now you're showing everyone around you how to be brave too. That's more powerful than anything we could have done." Later that evening, after the children had left, the three of them walked along a quiet path near the lake. The water was calm, reflecting the last light of the setting sun. The girl paused, looking out over the lake. "I still remember that night," she said softly. "I was scared, alone, and unsure if anyone would ever come. But you both came. That moment, it changed everything for me." The rock nodded. "It changed all of us, too. You taught us that even in ordinary moments, paying attention and acting can save a life. That's something we'll never forget." Cena smiled. "And it's not just about the rescue. It's about what you've done with it since. You turned fear into hope and courage. That's what heroes really do." The girl took a deep breath. "I want to keep doing this. I want to teach more kids, help more people, and make sure no one feels invisible. That's my goal now." The rock smiled. "And you're going to achieve it. You already have. Look at all the kids who came today. They'll remember you and the lessons you taught." Cena added, "And one day they might be the ones helping others, just like you did." "That's how change spreads." The girl looked at them thoughtfully. "I guess it's like the ripple in the water. One small action spreads farther than you realize." The rock nodded. "Exactly. That's the lesson of that night and every night since. Every small act counts." The following weeks were filled with more workshops, community visits, and volunteer work. The girl continued to inspire everyone around her, and both The Rock and Cena stayed in touch, supporting her when needed, offering advice, and cheering her on. She never sought attention or fame. Her motivation was pure, focused on helping others and sharing the lessons she had learned. One day she wrote a letter to The Rock and Cena, expressing her gratitude. It read, "Thank you for showing me that someone would notice. Thank you for teaching me that courage isn't about being fearless, it's about acting even when you're scared. That night by the lake changed my life, and because of it, I am trying to change the lives of others too. I will never forget your kindness, and I hope to make you proud by continuing what you helped start." The Rock read the letter carefully and smiled, feeling the weight of its sincerity. Cena read it next and nodded, equally moved. "She's doing exactly what we hoped she would," Cena said. "She's turning fear into action," The Rock added. "And that's something no one can take away from her." As time went on, the story of the night by the lake became a quiet legend in the local community. People remembered the girl's courage, The Rock and Cena's timely intervention, and the way one simple SOS had sparked a chain of actions that changed lives. It wasn't about fame or recognition. It was about humanity, awareness, and the power of paying attention. The girl continued her work, expanding her programs to other towns nearby. She held small workshops for schools, parks, and community centers, always emphasizing the importance of noticing when someone might need help. Children, teenagers, and even adults began sharing their own experiences, inspired by her story, and slowly a network of caring individuals began to grow. The Rock and Cena occasionally visited these workshops, not for publicity, but to support her and witness the positive change she was creating. Each time they left inspired by her determination, impressed by the way she had taken a frightening night and transformed it into a mission of compassion. One evening, after a particularly successful workshop, they all sat by the lake, the water reflecting the soft glow of the setting sun. The girl spoke quietly, her voice calm but firm. "I know I can't help everyone and I can't fix every problem. But if I can make even one person feel noticed, cared for, or brave enough to act, then it's worth it." The Rock smiled. "That's all anyone can do. Make a difference where they can, one step at a time." Cena added, "And you're doing it with heart and purpose. That's the most important thing." The girl looked out at the water, thinking about the night it all began. She remembered the fear, the darkness, and the flickering SOS that had started it all. And now she saw something brighter, a path of hope, courage, and compassion that stretched far beyond the lake, touching the lives of everyone she had met. "Thank you," she whispered softly, almost to herself, "for noticing me, for giving me the chance to notice others, and for showing me that courage isn't about being alone. It's about reaching out." The Rock placed a hand on her shoulder. "We didn't do anything special. You did the real work," Cena nodded, "and now you're inspiring everyone else to do the same. That's the kind of legacy that matters." As the sun disappeared behind the horizon, the three of them sat quietly by the lake. The night was calm and the air carried a sense of completion, not in an ending but in a transformation. What had started as fear had become courage, What had been helplessness became action, and what had begun with a flicker of light had grown into a beacon of hope. The girl's journey was far from over, but she had learned the most important lesson of all. Real heroism doesn't require fame, strength, or recognition. It requires seeing someone's need, acting with care, and passing it forward. And in that quiet moment, The Rock and Cena knew that the girl's life and the lives of countless others had been forever changed by a simple act of noticing, a small SOS signal, and the courage to act when it truly mattered. The story of that night would live on, not in headlines or awards, but in the hearts of everyone who learned that even small gestures can ripple outward, creating hope, courage, and kindness